Got me
Greetings.
now, Tom.
How are you?
Good. How are you, sir? You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm turning up my
Okay.
volume.
Oh, okay. Great.
There we go. So how you been?
Good, man. How about you?
I'm doing all right.
Good.
Craziness still exists.
Yeah. I know. The longer I'm in this game, the more busy I get.
Oh, I know. Things just keep, for me, they change all the time.
Yep.
Like next semester, so our department head is retiring. So I'm taking over and I'm taking over a couple of her classes. So I've got to now get ready to do two more new classes. And it's just like, okay, can I have like a few years of just doing the same thing?
Yeah. That is absolutely the truth. It's never that way. There's always something. And then when you think you're ready, the college board changes or redesigns.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yep.
Just when you get a good grip on it.
Exactly. So now you're at Spain Park, right?
Shades Valley.
Oh, Shades Valley. My fault. My fault. I knew that. I knew
Yep.
that. I knew that. So is that the IB school or no? You just be
Well, I'm
doing
not at the so IB is at Shades Valley, but I'm not at dealing with the IB at all.
okay, I get you. Yeah, that's a completely different program, isn't it?
Yes.
Gotcha. All right.
Okay, so I got to get up the.
Yeah, I sent you the link to being a co-teacher on the teacher dashboard. Did you get that in your email?
I haven't gotten to that point. I wanted to get logged in here first,
Okay.
and I'm gonna pull that up on my other computer here. Because you guys weren't part of that whole malware attack, right? Because you're on your own.
Yeah, that was just Jefferson County.
Yeah. So once they've done that, they've locked us down tighter than tight.
I bet ours have too, but
You know, and we were locked down pretty tight, but now it's just insane. So I've got to run like two computers now because it doesn't like my email. You know, I can't use my personal email on the school computer, and you know, I can't link. They won't let me link a personal device to the network anymore. And it's just like, okay,
wow.
you guys are being just stupid. You know, it's amazing Walmart can pull it off where anybody and everybody can log into a network and they've got, you know, tens of thousands of employees and they never have a problem. But Jefferson County can't pull that off.
Yeah, amen. So, well, hopefully adding a second room is gonna solve our problems. Did you do any session one?
No,
It was an absolute dumpster fire.
I can imagine.
Pear Deck just could not handle that load with the number of kids we had.
Yeah.
So it could, like, I might even tonight, I might just say, hey, I'm looking at your responses, great, and I'm really not doing it. Because it's the dashboard that was crashing. We could still present, but it was just the dashboard. So if my dashboard goes when we get to those writing responses,
Yeah.
you're up and running, then I might just say, hey, Tom, what, do you see anybody? Read a couple examples and we'll just do it that way.
Okay.
But hopefully getting to a second room will solve that problem. But I think it's a pretty straightforward session too. I know Ginger changed it all up a little bit, but
Yeah, I was looking through it. So
yeah, I mean,
other than a few changes in the whole design change, I mean, we're still doing basically the same stuff.
yeah, it is. So yeah, it got a little busy on some of the slides. But I think I've got them figured out.
All right, let's put that there. Okay, Pear Deck. Now let me get in over here.
Did you find the email yet?
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Oh, okay.
Because so my personal computer, I really need to get a new one because it's kind of out of date. So if I don't utilize it if like I have it on and don't utilize it for hours, it likes to go slow on me and figure things out. And you know, it's just I limp by with it, but I know within the year I'm gonna have to do something about it.
Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to that, and transferring everything over and all my files and all that kind of stuff is gonna be a pain, but
Yep. Part of it.
yeah.
That's why I'm 100% pretty much these days living on Google's cloud. If Google goes under, my life is over.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm one that has lost a whole bunch of stuff that way. So I have backups upon backups in many different formats.
Yeah. I wish I don't know. I don't. I'm 100. I now I've got multiple accounts backing up on the cloud, but if Google goes, I'm done.
Yeah.
I just got tired of keeping up with hard drives and flash drives and all kinds of other nonsense.
Yeah. So I bought like a couple terabyte drive. So I back up onto that like once a week.
Okay, yeah, smart.
So I have it. So I have my hard drive on my computer. I have that drive backed up. And then I have everything up on Google. So everything, I got a copy on Google, I got a copy in on my hard drive, and then I got everything backed up on another one.
Got it.
All right, well, I'm hopeful I'm going to be able to pull up Pear Deck.
Yeah, I sent the email about 3:30, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I'm getting the spinning wheel of impatience right now.
That's all right.
Do you have the Pear Deck code? So I'm going to type it into the chat and then make a copy so I can just keep putting it in as kids come
Yeah.
in.
Yep, Pear Deck is
Okay, hold on one
S.
sec. Hold on one sec. And Pear Deck's all one word, right? Yep. Please join Pear Deck at it's PD.
Yeah, joinpd.com.
Joinpd.com. Join pd.com. Is okay, ready.
Yeah. S is in Sam.
Yep.
G is in girl.
B,
P is in Paul.
B,
P is in Paul.
B.
Yeah. And then A is in alpha.
A. Yep.
And then LL,
LL.
the word all. So SGPALL.
Okay, SGPPALL.
No, just a single P. So
That's a single
yeah,
P.
three
Okay.
letters. SGPALL.
Yep. ALL. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And are you typing it into the chat?
Yeah, I'm typing it into the chat.
Okay, then you're good.
And, so I'm typing it in. I'm gonna make a copy of it so it's easy to keep putting back up as they come in.
Yep.
And then once we let them in, I'll let that fly. And it's just hitting enter, right? To make it go?
Yep.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, come on. What just happened? There you go.
Tom, your last name is Ridge, right?
Swift.
Oh gosh, who the heck is Ridge?
I don't know. Is
I'm
that
sorry.
Ben? That might be Ben's last name.
No.
No.
Okay, my fault. Gosh, I'm glad I asked. Show up in the chat. I'm not seeing it.
No, I haven't, you want me to hit enter so you can see it?
Yeah, just go ahead and, yeah, just make sure we're live on that, and then let's get you, there
Okay.
you go, perfect, yep. And then, we will get you, make sure you're signed in as a co-teacher. You hit that link in your email to the Pear Deck.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Okay.
What time do you want me to start letting them in?
We start about 2 minutes.
Okay.
2 minutes 4 is fine.
We got 14 waiting.
And I think on that message, Tom, it's got joinpdcomma.com instead of .com. They'll
does it?
know, but if you want to make that change.
Oh, yeah, I see that.
And then on that code, put a space in between your SGP and the ALL.
Okay. Period. Ah, there we go. Then a space. Okay. Here, I'm gonna send it again.
Okay,
You can just verify.
there you go. Yep.
Come on.
And then when we got, then when I know you can access the teacher dashboard, then we're good, because that'll be the key is if mine crashes.
Okay.
But if it crashes with 17 people,
Yeah, we got problems.
yeah.
We got more of a problem than just that. All right, come on. You know what, let's do this. Let's, can you, I don't know if I can, hold on, let me see if I can do this. I don't want to sign. Okay, you got too many things here in my way. All right, maybe that's not gonna work. All right, I really want to have to restart. Ah, here we go. Okay, can you send that link to my school email? Although I won't be able to open it that way though. That won't work. Shoot. Because I don't have that on my thing.
So I'm thinking about how else I can send you the link. I can put this, can you view my screen right now?
Yeah, hold on. I'm working on trying to get back to my Zoom thing now. Okay, I got that, but where did this is it. Right? I want to hide the video. Oh, here it is. Max my screen. Okay. All right. Yep.
All right, you can view my screen right now. That's the link, but that ain't gonna help you. I mean, you're gonna have to.
Yeah, that's not gonna help me. Hold on. It's moving along now.
Okay.
And then I may just start letting people in and
Yeah, go ahead. I can start talking to them.
and I'll keep working on my end.
Yeah, you just, as long as you get that teacher dashboard up, but I think we'll be all right with just 28, 40, 50 people.
Okay.
Yeah, you can go ahead and start letting them in.
All right. Just gonna fix this one thing here, right here, and then we'll be. Fix that. Come on. Control C. Admit all. Okay, here they come.
Good afternoon. Welcome to study session for AP World, session number 2. I am Jeff Schrupp, and I was with a lot of you on session 1. So I'm hoping this goes a little bit more smoothly this time since we've changed and added a classroom. But as you enter the Zoom, please go to joinpd.com. And then when you are in that Pear Deck, the join code is SGPALL. And you can see that in the upper right-hand corner as well, if you're unsure, and it's also in the chat. And we will begin here in just a few minutes, let some people get in. But again, if you're just joining, looks like we've got about 30 plus participants at the moment. So as you come in, go to join, joinpd.com. And that's your Pear Deck. And then when you get in, the join code is SGPALL. So we are glad to have you this afternoon, and we think it's going to be really productive for you. Help you get a great score on the AP exam in May. Again, welcome to AP World History Study Session 2, titled Making an Argument. I am Jeff Schrupp. I am at Hewitt-Trussville High School. As you come into the room, please go to joinpd.com, joinpd.com. If you can follow my directions. If not, it is listed in the chat room. So you can see it listed there, joinpd.com. And then your join code is SGPALL. Also, if you are a teacher and you are attending this evening, can you please do us a favor and post your name in the chat to Mr. Swift. Tom Swift is our co-presenter this evening, and that way we can make sure to get you credit for attending. We're going to go ahead and start here in a couple of minutes. This is a much more manageable group. We're getting close to about 40 people, so you're going to have a good chance of us leaving you some comments on your contributions this evening or afternoon. All right, one last time for those of you joining. I am Jeff Schrupp. I teach AP World History at Hewitt-Trussville High School. Your co-presenter this afternoon is Tom Swift, and he is at Shades Valley High School. Both of our schools are actually pretty close to one another. We're in the northeastern part of Birmingham. But this is a good study session on making an argument and how to identify arguments, how to make arguments, which is going to be very beneficial for you. So last time as you come in, go to joinpd.com, and your join code once you arrive in the Pear Deck is SGPALL. All right, so it's about 4:02. I'm going to give it one more minute to get any last folks in, and then we're going to go ahead and start. This is designed to be an interactive Pear Deck. If you've been with us before, you're probably aware of that. If you haven't, and this is your first study session, it is designed to allow you to be interactive, so you can actually type in answers and participate. Okay, all right, great. We are going to go ahead and begin. Study session 2 is titled Making an Argument. When you make an argument, you actually could do that in a couple of ways. You can make an argument in Obviously a thesis statement, which you're going to use on your DBQ as well as the LEQ. But you also, making an argument can also mean identifying an argument. And that's what we use on the stimulus-based multiple choice, as well as the short answer questions. So let's go ahead and begin. We are going to address Unit 3. Most of you are probably in Unit 3, Unit 4, unless you're in a year-long course. So if you've already covered the gunpowder or land-based empires, this can refresh your memory a little bit. And if you're in this time period, it should help you kind of get acclimated to it. All right. So first thing we like you to do is just give us a little bit of feedback on where you feel in terms of how confident do I feel that I can make an argument. Okay, so you see that you are going to just indicate and move that star. So this is just kind of something put together in terms of some dogs. So how well do I feel in terms of where I'm at? Okay, good. So it seems we've got some that feel confident, but most of you are right in the middle, which is perfect. That's exactly where we'd like you to be. So you're somewhat confident with it, but we intend to make that a lot better for you. So that is our goal this afternoon, is to really get you strong and be able to not only identify arguments, but then make them on your own when it comes time for our essays, the LEQ and the DBQ. All right, so I'm going to advance and let's do a little bit of some warm up and some specific facts of Unit 3 evidence and some of the things that we've had. So we're going to start with just a simple kind of map. Okay, and it's obviously the map that's released by the College Board. And let's identify our 5 major land-based or gunpowder empires as basically, what do I want to say? That the College Board defines as these land-based empires. So we have the Ottomans, the Safavid, the Mughals, the Russians, and then the Ming, as well as the Qing dynasty. Good. All right, so good. We're doing a really good job in terms of placing these in the right spaces. All right, the Ottomans, yep, great job on that. We're putting them in North Africa and a little bit to the east of the Mediterranean Sea. The Safavid today is modern day Iran. Great job. You're up there in the Arabian Peninsula in the Middle East. The Mughals, almost everyone is in South Asia. Great. Okay. The Russians, I don't see anybody that's missed in terms of the Russians. And then finally, the Ming and the Qing dynasty is definitely China. All right, great. All right, so advancing. Quick little question here. What distinguishes these land-based empires from each other? So we're doing one of our skills here, compare and contrast. So you're going to drag the number 1, 2, or 3. Okay, number 1, you're looking for which of these land-based empires used the Dev-Shirmei program, which also involved janissaries. 2, you're looking for what are the bureaucratic, or who used a new bureaucratic elite to rule, and they were required to wear the Q hairstyle. Most of you probably have a great idea of this. And then 3rd, which of these land-based empires practiced the Shia or Shiite sect of Islam, and also were known for their Persian textiles? Okay, great. Okay, seeing a little bit of moving around in the Dev-Shirmei system, but your Dev-Shirmei system, that's going to be the Ottoman land-based empire. Okay, the new bureaucratic elite is going to be the Qing dynasty in China. Everybody's got their 2s in the right spot there. Great job. And then finally, number 3, who practiced the Shia sect, or the Persian kind of version, and that is the Safavid. So outstanding. Very good. So that was a good little warm up just to kind of get us enriched in the period, the time period, as well as unit 3. So let's go ahead now and really start focusing in on making an argument. All right. If you want to, and you've got something you can jot down or just keep this in your mind, there are 4 steps that we are going to utilize in identifying and making arguments. And it is highly advised, even if it looks like this might be time consuming, to follow these steps. And this is really in place. Last week, or last session, excuse me, session 1, we talked about breaking down the question. If you remember, that had to do with what's the time period, what's the region, what's the historic thinking skill, what's the theme. Well, this is this builds upon that same thing. So the first thing we need to do, especially when we start looking at documents, SAQs, and the stimulus-based multiple choice, and the DBQ, is we need to understand exactly what the prompt is asking. And that means taking some time. When you're actually on the exam, mark it up a little bit. Make sure you can truly identify. And that also means think about reading that thing more than once. Read that thing 2 times. Because if you're not aware of what the question is asking, that's going to cause great confusion. And especially on the stimulus-based multiple choice, you're going to start fishing around and you start answering distracting things that make sense and they're true, but they're not the correct answer. And a little bit of planning could have prevented that mistake at the beginning. The second step in making an argument is then clearly identifying the line of reasoning or the historic thinking skill. And that is always going to be comparison. It's going to be causation, or it's going to be CCOT, which is continuity and a change over time. And there are times where you can kind of focus on the continuity more than the change over the time, or vice versa. Step 3 is I am going to look at the document. I'm going to look at the question, or if I have to write an essay, I need to have a historically defensible claim, which means that my statement is true. It's not necessarily just a fact, it's a claim. Okay, and then finally, step 3, I'm going to have to provide or identify specific evidence that is accurate and appropriate, okay, that fit the prompt, like again, the region, the time, the theme. And once you do these things, you're going to be in a much better shape to not only write your arguments, but to also identify them, and that'll help you on the stimulus-based and the short answer question. All right, so let's actually do some of this. Okay, all right. So sometimes when you're actually going through the steps of reading the question, then rereading the question, and then if you take the time to kind of, you know what, put this in my own words, or words that I can understand that help me understand it. And once I've done that and I'm aware of where the prompt is going, now it's time to actually use the information they give us to help us arrive at the best decision. So we've got an image over here to the right that we're going to use about the next 6 or 7 slides. But by gathering evidence, please, if there's one thing you take from tonight, always, always, always start with the source line after you've read the prompt. Go straight to the source line. That source line has so many clues in it that will direct you on where you want to go in terms of making an argument, okay? Then as part of that gathering of evidence, it's time to then start thinking about the document. And sometimes, to be honest with you guys, you won't even need that document, and you're going to know the answer by reading the answer choices. So that's my advice then, is once you've kind of, okay, I got an idea what's going on in the document, I'm going to look at those answer choices, and you know what? Sometimes you're just going to know the answer, and that's going to help you save time. And I don't need to go to that document and actually start reading text until I'm sure that I'm going to need to do it. But as a good rule of thumb, you usually are going to, at least for some of the questions, you're going to have to use that document. But that's the best, again, way to kind of make it through your argument. So read the question. Step 2, read it twice. Step 3, now I want to start to gather evidence. So I'm going to go to the source line, and then I'm going to look at that document. and kind of look to summarize it. What's going on? What are these people doing? What are they saying? Where are they from? And then I'm going to read the answer choices, and then I can go back to the document and use it as need be. Okay, so let's then kind of get some practice now. And we're going to look at a prompt. And this is typical of a prompt that would be asked in a short answer question. It says, which of the following best explains the process illustrated in the image? Okay, the process. Now, first, we got to kind of have an idea of what process means. And if you're not sure what they're looking for in process, sometimes there's some clues that will help you out. But in this case, a process is a series of actions or steps that one would take to try to attain an outcome that's desirable, or a means to an end per se. So in this case, we want to focus in on and keep that in the back of your mind. The prompt matters. So we're going to read it once. We're going to read it twice. We're going to kind of put it in our own words like, okay, wait a minute, what is a process? So I'm looking for an action. What is the action that's going on here? So in this case, I'm taking a look at the numbers of you, and good. I've got 20 of you that are saying, hey, what are they doing? Just a few of you are still out there in terms of what are they thinking? And then some are what to happen. And great, you guys have all now gone to what are they doing? Correct. So when we look at the word process through the lens of an action, it's much easier to summarize and know what are we looking for in the document. Okay, so we now know what the process is. Great job on that. Okay, so now let's break down the prompt by going to the next step. So we've read the prompt, we've identified in our mind, and we've put things in our own word. We've read it twice, and now we're going to go straight to the source line. And in this case, we see it says source, okay? Miniature illustration included in a Persian history of the Mughal conquest of India, showing the Mughal defeat of the Sultan of Delhi at the Battle of Panipat in 1526. Okay, now, many students sometimes make a mistake and they stop right there, and now they start trying to answer the question, and they forget there's also a little bit more in that source line, and that's sometimes called an attribution, something that attributes something else to the document. And in this image, we see it says the illustrated history was prepared for a Mughal emperor, Akbar, in the late 16th century. So we know that the Battle of Panipat, okay, is 1526, but this actually was prepared much later than that. And that's where you can kind of get some clues on what's going on here. So according to the source line, which empire is this meant to glorify? Which empire is this meant to glorify? And great, obviously, yes, it is glorifying the Mughal, okay? Not the Delhi Sultanate, not the Persians, which the Persian Empire is largely going to be the Safavid, but the Mughal is meant to be glorified. So that's pretty straightforward, and you all did a great job of identifying that. Okay, so now, what process or action do you see here? And again, there's no interaction here, but now I want you to really focus in on the image. Okay, and which of the following best explains the action illustrated in the image? So what's going on here? Obviously, we take a close look at this and we see we've got some warriors. We see some swords, we see horses, we see shields, and we definitely see two sides potentially, and one side is preparing to attack. But the bigger thing that's really relevant in this image is, as we notice in that image up in the left, they have lined up 3 cannons in a row. So you can see that this not only is a battle scene, but these are gunpowder empires, and they're using improved cannon technology. And that is going to be critical as we kind of look then, how are we going to take this information? So once we've examined this document thoroughly, and we kind of have an idea, we can now find the process by actually reading the answer choices, and the answer choices now should align with the document as we've gone through this step, through the steps. Okay, so choose an option here, A, B, or C. States increasingly relied on slave soldiers, the invention of the stirrup, the development of new types of armor, or states used gunpowder weapons to establish large armies. So you've got A, B, C, or D. Okay, great. I'm seeing a few. So it looks like the most of you are putting C or D, and certainly C can be true. However, we want to focus in on what has been the general theme of our gunpowder empires. They wanted to expand and consolidate, and they used their large armies and especially the new technology of gunpowder and cannon fire to defeat their enemies. So your answer here would be D. So very good job on that. All of you have changed that if you needed to, but outstanding in terms of identifying that process. Good. Okay, so the last thing we want to consider is what happens if they change the type of question, and that commonly happens on the AP exam. Especially when you get to the SAQ, they will likely what's called scaffold the questions. So the first question will refer to a document, and then the second one is something different. So they might just change the wording around and the document stays the same. So you don't have to examine the document over and over again. So in a case where they might say, all right, which explains the most common effect that the process illustrated in the image had on relationships between states in Afro-Eurasia. Again, don't get confused with Afro-Eurasia. It's not like a unique place. It just simply means you are allowed to consider Africa, Europe, and Asia. Okay, in our period, 1450 to 1750, which is the early modern period. All right, so the last question asks for a process, but in this one, what is the historic thinking skill that they're wanting you to focus in on? So as you look at answer choices on a multiple choice, you want to keep in the back of your mind, all right, I'm looking for what historical thinking skill? And your options are cause and effect, continuity and change over time, or is this asking for a comparison? And I love it, and students, you're going to love it when the College Board is very, very specific in their direction. And as I break down that argument, I can see right in the argument that this is causation because I see the word effect. Okay, so cause and effect. So what I'm looking for is what is the effect that this battle of Panapat and these gunpowder empires had on the relationship between the states in Afro-Eurasia, which are basically the land-based empires, as well as the maritime empires we'll get to in Unit 4. But how is that impacted? So let's take a look at that in the next slide, okay? So considering our steps again, I'm making an argument. So we would read the prompt. We're going to repeat it twice. Repeat it twice. Put this in kind of your own minds. We've already looked at the document, and we now know, okay, in this particular case, let's look at the answer choices and see what they're providing for us. And they say, all right, A, it led to the emergence of new religious disputes over theological interpretations. It led to deepening rivalries and conflicts as states' military capabilities grew. Or C, it led to the establishment of pan-Eurasian nomadic empires such as the Mongol Empire. Or finally, D, it led to the adoption of feudal systems of government as monarchs could not prevent rising power of military aristocracies. All right, as you're considering this, notice the College Board in every single answer choice said it led to. So they're showing you that this is causation. It led to. What's the effect? And then think about this document again. What is the most common effect as it relates to your image. So in other words, what's the most common effect related to the gunpowder and things? And this is where it's very important to kind of put things into context in terms of the time period. So I'm seeing a lot of you correctly get this. So there's only a real small number, and your answer is definitely B. It led to deepening rivalries and conflicts as states' military capabilities grew. And that's the most significant. So let's just discuss for a minute why the others are wrong. Okay. A says it led to the emergence of new religious disputes. But this again would have been more of the cause. This isn't really the effect, because it's the religious rivalries that led to the disputes, not the other way around. Okay. B is your correct answer. C, we know that the Mongols already existed. You should have done those in your last time period, post-classical. So that doesn't fit. And then finally, letter C is incorrect. I'm sorry, there's only 3 choices. My fault. So C, no, D is there. For whatever reason, that's not in my directions. I apologize. D, it led to the adoption of feudal systems of government, which already existed in Europe, and they already existed in Japan. And those are things we studied in your last time period. So really good. All right, that is kind of an introduction to the steps to identify an argument that will help you on the short answer questions as well as the stimulus based. Now, where you're really going to have to be able to make arguments, though, is when you have to develop thesis statements for your DBQ and your LEQ. So with this slide is titled Making an Argument from Scratch. So all we're going to have is a prompt. We're going to still follow our making an argument steps, but now we want to consider, how do we go ahead and actually make a claim with a line of reasoning so we get the thesis points when it's time for your essays. Okay, so what we're going to do here in this particular case is you've got the choices and you're already doing this for me. So choose an option. Okay, and the prompt says, explain how a land-based empire in the Middle East during the time period 1450 to 1750 used culture to legitimize its rule. All right, so as you're doing that, we have to figure out, first of all, where is the land-based empires that are located in the Middle East? So really the only one we can consider here is the Ottoman and the Safavid Empire. Okay, Russia's not going to apply. The Chinese dynasties, the Ming and the Qing, are not going to apply. And the Mughal is in South Asia. So you can narrow it down just based on the prompt. The next thing we have to do is kind of figure out, okay, wait a minute, what do they mean by legitimize its rule? And legitimize just simply means like what gives you your street credibility, your street cred. How could somebody look at you and say, okay, you're legit? So for example, in China, you had the mandate of heaven. In Europe, we have divine right of kings. These are things that establish legitimacy. And they're usually bloodlines, especially early on in our history here in the course. Okay, so I'm seeing a little bit of a mix here, but the vast majority you did get the answer B. Okay. What specific way did the Ottomans and or Safavid use culture, which means art, architecture, and religion? And when you're confused with culture, your go-to should always be religion. You can always use religion. You were well-versed in it. Your teachers are studying it at length. So you can always use religion if they ask you a question about culture. To make the leader seem like he was supposed to be in charge of the empire. Good. And that is what we're looking for in terms of how we respond to getting information from scratch to make an argument. Okay, now in this case, going through our steps again, let's identify the historic thinking skill. Okay, so again, the prompt, explain a specific way the Ottomans or Safavid during the period 1450 to 1750 used their culture, which could be art, architecture, and or religion, to legitimize their rule, leading their people to see their sultan as their rightful leader. So we want to identify, is this a comparison? Is this causation, or is this continuity and change over time? So, and as you're doing that, not every question, SAQ, stimulus-based, I think your essays will, but not everyone has an explicit, it's easy to identify historic thinking skills. Sometimes you got to work at this a little bit. So in this particular case, right, you can make an argument that there is some kind of change over time here, but the best way to look at this is causation. Okay, so what the prompt again is saying is, how did they use their culture and these things to legitimize the rule? In other words, what did they do that caused the people to see the Sultan as the rightful leader? So this is definitely more of a cause or causal effect type of question, historic thinking skill, than it is change over time. You could probably get change over time here, but it's a little bit more difficult to make that argument when causation. But that's an example of where it doesn't really say causation in it, which is why it's so important to put these things kind of in your own words. And then I can figure out, okay, I get it. Who is the actor? And in this case, it's the Ottomans and the Safavid. And those that are receiving that action are the people. Okay, great job. We are halfway through, so we're right on pace, guys, to get you out of here. 5 o'clock or just a little bit after. All right, so now, again, the slide's a little busy here, but I want you to focus in on what it's asking you to do. So in this case, we've now narrowed the prompt down to the Ottomans specifically. So we're going to talk about the Ottomans and not the Safavid. So we've chosen the Ottomans. What do you remember about the Ottomans that you've learned in the course so far? Okay, so in terms of region, think about where they're located. Think about any political things they use to help rule and consolidate their power. You could think about other things, but then really narrow your focus down to culture. How did the Ottomans use their religion? Which will require you first to figure out, all right, what is their religion? And if I identify their religion, I can start to figure out, where do they worship? How do they worship? Okay, so some hints, for example, if you look in the lower left-hand corner, it says Ottomans linked their government to Islam. Through how? What about Islam? And there's a comment, it says they built monumental architecture like, so we need a for example, or created little artwork like what? To glorify their leaders. So what I kind of want you to do is turn that, because this is a written response now, turn that into a response using the words of those hints below. So I see a lot of you are typing it in, but use the prompt. So I would start out a prompt by saying, one way the Ottomans used their culture to legitimize their rule from 1450 to 1750 was to, okay, or through something involving Islam, which then caused their people to see the Sultan as the rightful ruler of the empire. Good. So Hudson, nice, short, and simple. One way the Ottomans used their culture to legitimize their rule from 1450 to 1750 was to create miniature paintings. Okay, good. All right, and then we want to continue that and then talk about how these would glorify their leaders. Let me see if I've got some other examples here. Okay, Brenna McReth, good. Ottomans linked their government Islam through, they built monumental architectures like churches. And again, with Islam, we might want to call this a mosque, and they created miniature paintings. Good. That's all you're looking for here, is to kind of use these examples. Okay, and there are some, like, just to kind of refresh your memory, some pretty advanced ones, but if you can remember, one of the rulers, and probably the most well-known of the rulers for the Ottoman, at least in this time period, is Suleiman. And when he came in, he immediately recodified a lot of the laws, which had a huge impact in terms of the church and how people would worship and do all different types of things and how you would do Islam. And then he immediately, Suleiman, set out to build the Suleimana mosque. And then they converted, the Ottomans did, the Hagia Sophia. Okay, they converted that from, which was a Christian place of worship during the Byzantine Empire, to now in Islam. These are all examples of how they are trying to legitimize. Okay, and they also use the miniatures to glorify the Sultan. And if you remember, the miniature paintings will come up here in a moment, but the miniature paintings were these unbelievable, like, types of artwork that were usually included in books. And they weren't meant to just be illustrations. They were done by multiple artists that were highly skilled to sometimes show multiple themes going on in something that was really the size of just a small inset in a book or document. All right, so I'm seeing great examples of how you would use this, but we really want you to kind of focus in on, how do I focus in on the writing an argument from scratch. All right, so let's go to the next slide. Okay. When it comes to writing your essays, you're going to probably have to make more than just one claim. You can get away with it, but it's advised that you use two arguments and make two claims, so we're going to perform the same skill. So first, you're just going to quickly choose an option. Which of the following best demonstrates the understanding of this prompt? So we got to read the prompt, reread it, put it in your own words. Okay, develop an argument that evaluates the extent to which the economy of East Asian states, notice that's plural, states. Okay, so you should be thinking about your regional maps. What are the East Asian states during our time period that would have changed their economy in response to European expansion? Which of the following best demonstrates the understanding of this prompt? Okay, your choices here are: as Europeans arrived in East Asia, how did the East Asians change their economy? As Europeans like the Portuguese and Dutch entered the Indian Ocean, how did the Chinese change the way they traded because of the Europeans? And finally, what was the Chinese economy like? Okay, so what are we really trying to find out there? What again is the more accurate kind of thing we're looking for in terms of understanding the prompt? And I'm seeing a little bit of a split here. So think about this. Take a second. And think, as you're kind of doing this, what are these East Asian states? Who are these Europeans that the prompt is asking for? And then what are some economic terms that I might refer to in a moment if we were to write this out? Okay, I'll give you just a second yet. Okay, all right. So your best answer choice here is, although the Europeans did arrive in East Asia, this said, how did the East Asians change their economy? Okay, as Europeans like the Portuguese and Dutch entered the Indian Ocean, how did the Chinese change the way they traded because of the Europeans? This is asking economics. So that trade and the fact that the Chinese are changing the behavior, the emphasis is not on the Europeans. So your answer here is B. Good. And a vast majority of you got that. Okay. So before we move on from this, hopefully you've been thinking, like, who are these East Asian states? Obviously, China, Korea can be used here, as well as Japan. What are some of the economic terms that we could use? We can talk about commerce. We can talk about trade. And when you talk about trade, you want to talk about what traded items, for example. When we talk about the Europeans, which ones are we talking about that would have arrived in East Asia? the maritime empire. So we're doing a little bit of unit 4 here, but it was the Portuguese who arrived first, followed by the Dutch. Later, the English, the Spanish did have some time spent over there. The French never made it that far. They did in some areas, so all of them had some interest there, but it is definitely the Portuguese and the Dutch in terms of as they arrived. So knowing that, and now if we want to make a more complex argument, let's move to the next slide. And we see that in this case, which historical thinking skill are we attempting to identify to help us make an argument and put a thesis together with 2 claims rather than 1? Okay, now, you notice this changed a little bit. It says develop an argument that evaluates the extent to which the economy or trade of East Asian states like China in this time period changed in response to European like Portuguese and Dutch expansion. So we've added that into the Indian Ocean trade network. So you kind of put this in your own words, and you need to be specific again. Which East Asian states? Which European maritime empires like the Portuguese and the Dutch? Which trade route? Indian Ocean trade route. So is this, in this particular case, what works best with the prompt? And you're going to have to type this one in. We didn't make this where you just select or identify your option. You're going to actually write this one in. So you're looking for, is this cause and effect? Is this comparison? Or is this CCOT, which is continuity and change over time? All right, so I'm going to give you about another 30 seconds here to put your responses in. Okay, and just scrolling through this. Okay, I'll call you out here. Great job, Anna Brown. CCOT, I agree. Okay, because we're looking for how they changed over time. They were transformed. Okay, a response to, where it says in there, a response to could kind of indicate maybe causation, but I think you're best to go change over time, continuity and change over time. So great job on that. Okay, let's move on. All right, in this particular case, we now are going to start thinking about what are our claims here. What do you remember about the Chinese? So in particular, the Chinese, we're talking about either the Ming and the Qing, both apply here in our time period. What did they do in response to people like the Portuguese and the Dutch showing up? Okay. What trade policies did they implement? What did they do? How did they adopt all of these maritime empires showing up? And you kind of want to think about this. And then we're going to take that and make some claims. So you don't necessarily need to type in an entire sentence. If you do, great. And then we'll go through and we'll kind of look here and pick some of these. Okay, Riley Stewart, great job. You're referencing that there was lots of silver, and that is correct. They're going to, in many cases, in the case of the Qing dynasty, they literally demand they be paid in silver. Okay, Emmeline Scott, good. The Qing and the Ming started to isolate themselves. Okay, so economically, what did they then do as a result of that isolation? So you kind of want to be specific there. Stella James, outstanding. They did limit the Portuguese, but they did allow the Dutch, and you mentioned something known as Dutch learning, good, to be allowed to trade with China. Okay, so some of you are typing these things in, good. All right, Hudson Hyde, also very good. European expansion affected numerous East Asian states like China by secluding trade to all but one port. We'll discuss that here in a moment. Very good. I was hoping some of you might give me something about what did the Ming Dynasty specifically do in terms of isolating themselves? How did they isolate themselves from the rest of the world? Margaret Durham, very good. Demand silver. Barrett Finley, outstanding. The Chinese had closed all of their ports except the Canton port. Very good. We'll get to that. And they demanded to be paid in silver. Good. You guys are really coming up with some good ideas, and you want to specifically, again, be specific. Try to use proper nouns. Try to use things like in the Ming Dynasty. I was hoping I might see some things about Zheng Ha and how his boats were recalled, and they actually burned them. They re-emphasizing, rebuilding the Great Wall of China, keeping not only foreigners out, but invaders out prior to that. The Tokugawa shogunate. I'm seeing somebody mention that. Okay. We can't use that, even though it says like China. You can use Tokugawa because it says East Asian states. So the Tokugawa program of Sakoku is another example, which they locked down the country. Rangaku was actually the policy that the Dutch used, that the Japanese used in terms of they did allow, and I misstated that again, that the Qin dynasty did by allowing the Dutch to come in was Rangaku. But those are some examples. Okay, great job on that. Let's move forward. We got about 15 more minutes left. So now I want to draw your attention to, I don't think there's anyone here from Hartselle, but there is an AP World History teacher, a very experienced by the name of Daniel Cooper up in Hartselle High School. And he refers to this method as the chicken foot, where you basically start with a statement, an argument using the words of the prompt, and then you come up with two claims, and that forms the basis of your thesis statement. So in this particular case, what I want you to do is actually type the words of the question. So in this case, you're just going to regurgitate what is right there. The Qing dynasty in China changed its economy from 1450 to 1750 in response to European expansion by, and then we want to look at a possibility, and you can type what's up there, or you can use what you put in your response. So I don't care what you do on that, guys. You can type what's in there. I just want you to practice that, or you can do it in what you put in as your first claim. Okay, so we should have a sentence that says, and I love how some of you are including the time period. Capri Worsham, during the early modern era, the Qin dynasty in China changed its economy in response to European expansion by restricting trade and isolating themselves. That's a claim. Okay, that is a claim. We can also write, those of you that wrote about the silver policy. Now, as you were to get into this, you're going to eventually have to explain in detail with evidence how to back up that claim, but that at least gets us on the path of making an argument and building a thesis statement. So really good. Okay, Alexis Marie Smith. Oh, you are from Hartselle. Great. So you know Mr. Cooper. So I know you have been taught well in terms of making a claim. Great. The Qing dynasty in China changed its economy from 1450 to 1750 in response to European expansion by restricting trade to certain European countries. Great. That's all that's necessary for that part of the claim. And then to make that better, we'll just throw in such as the Dutch or so on when we be specific. Good. I'm liking the way this one looks here. This is from Margaret Durham. The Qing dynasty in China changed its economy from 1450 to 1750 in response to European expansion by demanding silver and isolating their empire. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. That is a claim. We are well on our way to making two claims. All right, so those are just some of the examples I saw. Okay, Next, let's add a second claim. And in this, unless you can come up with something, you might want to just do what's done here. So our second claim would then be, and limiting trade to, and think about that Canton policy. And this was actually called the Canton system. And what that meant is the Chinese literally said, all right, all of the trade from now on, because of these new empires showing up, maritime empires, is going to go through Canton. And Canton is actually very close to Hong Kong. It's in the southern part of China, a little bit west of Taiwan, if you're familiar with where Taiwan and the island is there. And the Chinese then said, you know what, we're going to send everything through Canton, and then we'll be able to regulate it better. Now, there's some downside to that. It means the goods don't flow very smoothly and so on. By the way, Canton today is actually Guangzhou is a major port in China today is Guangzhou. So it's no longer called Canton. But what I want you to do is actually practice now typing out what would turn into an entire thesis statement. So you should be typing, the Qing dynasty in China changed its economy. And we want to focus on change because that's the historic thinking skill. From 1450 to 1750 in response to European expansion by claim 1, restricting trade with the Europeans to allow only silver in return for Chinese goods, and limiting trade to, and then you could mention something about a single port or a single port in Canton. And that is how you would write out a thesis statement. Guys, I cannot tell you enough. If you will use this strategy, you won't sit there and look at a blank page during the exam. You can come up with a thesis pretty quickly. All it requires is taking 2 claims and then turning the prompt into a thesis statement, making those 2 claims. And then you got to make sure you got a line of reasoning, and we'll get to that in future sessions. But I'm seeing some great examples here. You're typing those up. Brenna McCreath. The Qin dynasty in China changed its economy in response to European expansion by restricting trade to allow only silver, good, and limiting trade and sending resources through a single port. Good, that's it. And then as we were to get into the body of our paragraph, we can start talking about Canton and explain in detail how they did this. Really good job. Your teachers are doing a great job of preparing you for the AP exam. So most of you are pretty solid in terms of making an argument. All right. I know some of you still typing, but let's go ahead and move on. All right. So when we look at this now, and a lot of us, we've already kind of done this. Okay. So this chicken foot, if you've already done it, don't necessarily worry about typing it in, because all we're really doing here is we're saying now, we're not just like stating facts. We're actually making a claim. We say change because they restricted. Okay, think ED, action verb there. They restricted trade and they limited trade. That's your claims. And then you would then go on to tell the reader how they did these things by being specific and using key terms. So you're in great shape in terms of kind of how we do this. And you don't need to respond here on this one because you've already done so. But that's the key to how we make an argument to support a thesis. Okay. Now, I know a lot of you are looking at this like, Coach Schrupp, this sounds like a lot of steps and a lot of time. And the biggest thing I need to be worried about is how quickly I work through this exam. And it's true. The multiple choice is a tight window, 55 questions in 55 minutes. And then you're basically going to get about 13 minutes for each SAQ. And then you get about 60 to 65 minutes for the DBQ and about 35 to 40 minutes, maybe 30 minutes for the LEQ. So it is a tight window, but I can assure you, okay, if you look at what Mark Twain has said in this quote, it usually takes me 3 weeks to prepare for a good impromptu. Impromptu means like you ask me something and I immediately deliver a speech. So what Mark Twain was saying there is, if you fail to plan, you all plan to fail. Okay. It's just the truth. Again, you can't over plan, but you gotta have an idea of, hey, there are steps to breaking down questions, and there are steps I need to follow to making arguments. And if you'll do those things, the longer you do this throughout the course, guys, you're going to get better and better and better at doing it. So don't worry. Don't think I'm taking too much time. Just keep practicing, and then you'll realize how quickly these things happen. Okay, we are getting to about the last 10 minutes, guys. So let's make one more argument if we could. All right, so first step we would do is we read the prompt, and then remember, read it 2 times. If you answer a prompt perfectly, but you misunderstood it, you're not going to earn the points. So we want to read it 2 times. Then we want to kind of put it into our own words. So we look at the prompt and it says, in the period circa 1450 to 1750, the global increase in trans-regional context led to both expansion and contraction of existing religions, as well as the development of new religious practices. So we got a lot going on here. Okay, so we immediately need to look at these words and we need to identify a couple of things like, all right, expansion and contraction, but existing religions then developed new religious practices. So what's going on here is a little bit of cultural diffusion. So can you develop an argument that evaluates the extent, that means how much, to which military conflict or conquest was the main cause of that religious change in this period? So is this compare, contrast, is this causation, or is this continuity and change over time? This is one where they can sometimes get tricky, and we see it says the main cause of religious change. So is this cause or is this change over time? And in this particular case, we don't want to get distracted by that religious change because the prompt is talking about the cause. That's the subject, or the action is the main cause. So this is a causation. So B is your correct answer there. All right, so let's think about what you would do, especially in the case of an LEQ. All right, so I know I'm now thinking about cause, and I'm thinking about what caused the development of these new religious practices. So what I want you to do is brainstorm a little bit and write down everything you know about this topic. So in terms of this particular case, it says the global increase in trans-regional context led to both expansion and contraction of existing religions, as well as the development of new religious practices. So if you put this in your own words, okay, what's it asking me? How often did these conflicts and conquest cause religions to expand or change or develop? Okay, so specifically, can you think of any wars? Or think of combatants is a better way to think of it. Who constantly fought one another that allowed for Islam to grow? Okay, were there any conquests of maybe a Christian empire that's no longer there because it was conquered by a Muslim empire? Okay, you can also incorporate religion into this, the Spanish into this. So think again as you're typing this out, and I'm starting to see some things come in. What religions are spreading? So that's obvious. Okay, so think about the religions. And then think about the actual gunpowder empires that are spreading it. And is there 2 different sects, for example, of Islam that you could consider? All right, and we're going to take a look at some of these responses here. So a lot of you are typing these in, so I want to find some that are close to finished. Yeah, I'm going to wait a little bit longer. And I think once we've done this, we can kind of get close to the end. Because I want you to develop these a little bit more thoroughly. So some of you go ahead and continue typing these, please. And you're kind of brainstorming here. Good. So Islam, Christianity. A lot of you are mentioning the Ottomans. Good. The Safavid. And the Ottomans, the Safavid absolutely went at it. They literally fought, you know, over 10 wars just during our time period. And that was largely due because the Ottomans, well, besides the fact that they were in the same neighborhood, but the Ottomans were Sunni, whereas the Safavid were Shia or Shiite. Good. Some of you are mentioning how Christianity spread via the Great Commission. Great answer there, the Great Commission. Some of you mentioned the Jesuits. Outstanding. That's really good in terms of spreading religion. Okay, so we've gathered the evidence. Now let's, and some of you are already doing it, so you don't have to retype it here, but let's look in the next slide. Let's see how we would maybe brainstorm this. Okay, so yes, some of you said Jesuits. I don't know if I saw a conquistador. I definitely saw Sunni. I saw Shia. I saw Safavid and Ottomans. Okay. In this case, we've got the Spanish and the encomienda system, Spain, Pizarro, the Aztecs, the Incas, conquistadors. There's all kinds of different things that talk about military conflicts. So let's write one more argument. Okay. So this is where you're going to practice this last argument. So use the words of the question. So always do this. And I know a lot of you are panicked, like, hey, my teacher said, don't use the exact words of the prompt. I disagree. You're not restating the prompt, trying to make that your thesis. You're restating the prompt so it guides into your claims. So military conflicts and expansion caused religious change during this time period by expanding what sect of Islam due to the blank defeating the blank. So if you brainstorm some of those, what would go in to fill in those responses? So what would we put in those blank spaces in claim number one? Expanding what sect of Islam? All right, David Benfield, awesome. You are on the track. Military conflicts and expansion caused religious changes during 1450 and 1750 by expanding the Sunni sect of Islam due to the Ottomans defeating the Safavids. Great, great job. That's it. That's all we need. Fill in the blanks. You are well on your way. Here's another example. Military conflicts, good. Yep, you guys, again, that should be kind of how you're doing it. Great. Okay. All right, I want to wrap up here in a few minutes. So I'm going to take this to its conclusion in terms of thinking about a second claim. All right, so what will we put in here? And you guys can just short answer this. You don't necessarily have to type this out. So in this time, I would say military conflicts and expansion caused religious change during 1450 to 1750 by expanding the Sunni sect of Islam due to the Ottomans defeating the Safavid, and the spreading of blank because so-and-so conquered the Americas. And think of how we brainstorm with the terms. Great. So as you're looking at spreading of Christianity, because, good, some of you have just typed in Spain, conquered the Americas. Good. Some of you are literally saying, here's the Aztecs being conquered by Cortez. Great. Pizarro took out the Incas, by the way. So a lot of you are adding your own touches to this. Great job. Guys, I'm very, very excited for you. If you guys are already at this stage of putting claims together and forming this type of thesis, and we're not even to Christmas, you are in great shape. First of all, I know you're in great shape because you've already taken the time to come to a study session. So that's already outstanding. But you are in a really strong position to now know how do we identify arguments in short answer questions and using stimulus-based multiple choice. And then how do we make arguments when they don't give us any documents? So your LEQ, and then that leaves us in a great spot. Okay, so you guys have done an outstanding job. There's just one more little kind of, write in argument claims. Don't worry about that. I now just kind of want to poll you here at the end. And please be reminded, we want your feedback. We want to know, how you're feeling about this. So how do we feel? Do we feel a little bit better about how to identify and write arguments? Okay, so great. The majority of you are saying you feel better. I'm grateful. If you don't, the best advice I can give for you is, hey, maybe attend this session again Thursday night or Saturday, or certainly ask students in your class, fellow students that feel better about it, and they can help you. And you can certainly ask your teacher, and we will definitely give you help in terms of how to identify and make an argument. So last step I need you to do is, thanks again for participating. If you've got any questions or comments, this would kind of be a place where I can address them quickly. Or you can post them in chat and stay in the room. So in fact, it's probably best because I want to advance to the rest of you because I know you want to get onto your evening. Some of you probably have homework and you want to get to dinner. So I'm going to advance the slide to the survey. This is how the A+ is taking attendance for many of you. So please fill out this linked Google form and provide the survey. And once you've filled out the survey, you are free to go. We greatly appreciate your attendance this afternoon. And if you do have specific questions you want to ask Mr. Swift and myself, you can place them in the chat and we will be more than welcome to hang around for a little bit and answer your responses. So again, this has been Jeff Schrupp from Hewitt Trussville. I hope we've given you some information in terms of making arguments that will assist you. And it has been my pleasure as always. And I will see you again down the road in session 3, possibly 4 or 5, and the AP Palooza at the end of the year are all things that are going to help you perform well on the AP exam. Last instructions, if there's any teachers present, if you can please let us know you're here either by staying around at the end and letting us know, or just typing in the chat room that you were here so we can make sure to record your attendance this evening. All right, it has been our pleasure. And again, make sure you fill out the form and then please go ahead and log out so we don't have to kick you out of the room. And then here in a little bit, we'll start closing people out. So again, it's been our pleasure and we hope you have a great rest of the day. There's just a couple of people still filling out surveys.
Yeah, do you have the, I lost the waiting room. Do you have that up?
Yes, there is only 3 left.
Yeah.
I got
so
you.
I can see the participants, but I just don't have the waiting room anymore to like, if for some reason they don't log out, to log them out.
Okay. If not, we just kick them out.
Yeah, right. But I lost the waiting
Oh,
room.
you don't have that.
Yeah, to be able to do that. So you may have to do that because I've been trying to figure out how to get that back.
Yeah,
And
it's just that if you click on that participant button,
yeah, I did.
oh, and then the three little dots to the right. If you click on the, do you got their names or not?
Yeah, I got their names.
Okay, the 3 little dots to the right, and then you scroll down and it says remove.
Okay, I don't have that option.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, there's just 3 people left in. So I'm gonna give them about another minute.
Okay.
Were there any teachers that let you know they were here, Tom?
I had one.
Okay.
Levi Buckner.
Who is that?
Levi Buckner.
That's one of my students.
Oh, that's a student.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, then no.
Hold on, I'm gonna respond to a
There's
couple.
none that.
I don't think Barrett Finley's still here. He's one of mine. No way. I'll remove him. Oh, there he went. He heard me. Emmeline, you still with us? Nope, she's gone. Okay, we're good. All right. Okay. Do you have the did you fill I don't think we had any teachers.
No. At least none responded. If there was a teacher, they didn't respond.
I'll ask Ginger quick. Okay. All right. I gotta remember this is the time I did. So I gotta go and do the takeaway.
Yep.
See, end. All right. AP World session 2. What's the date today? I don't even know.
The
28th,
28th.
right?
Yep.
All right, save and end the session. Generate takeaways. Oh, I didn't copy that link. That's all right. She'll find it. There it is. Think we're good there. I can't think, I just trying to remember anything else. We did the teacher. We generated the takeaways. I'll
Yep.
send Rhonda the link to the takeaways if she needs it. I think we're good, aren't we?
Yeah, we
Other than
recorded
that, it's
everything
just-
from everything that I know. I was just looking at the everything document just to see if there's anything else. And
I'm sometimes not good at remembering the small details.
you're right.
But all right, that worked. I mean, we only had 40 some people. I didn't see the text, but she asked me how many people were in the pear deck. Did you happen to see that?
Yeah. Yeah, I did. I sent it to her. It was 36.
Oh, okay. All right. Good. Yeah, I saw that while we were going. All right, I'll stop sharing. And I just think we're good, man. What did you think overall? I think pacing was close.
No, I think I think it went well. I like the setup of it. I like Daniel's too, but I think Daniel's like just so busy at times, all the information on it. And I like the way that the chicken foot piece, I think is good.
Yeah, in terms of building your thesis statement, I'll be honest.
Yeah, and then putting in the at least giving them ways of being able to write it and not have to think of it all on their own. Having those sentence stems that they filled in was good.
Yeah. So, all right. I can't think of anything else. I might change up a couple of things Thursday. I'm doing it again. I'll be with Ben. Are you doing Saturday?
I am. Yeah.
Okay. You presenting?
Yeah, I'm with Ben's the presenter. I'm the co-presenter again.
Oh, I got you. Good. Okay. So all right. Well, I know I'm now with the 2 rooms, we're going to be a lot busier. So that's nice. But
yeah,
I think that made
it's good to see that the attendance is so high in it.
Yeah. Especially, I mean,
no, I think everything overall went smooth.
Yeah, that's only 3 schools or 2 schools, I think, today in the new room.
Yeah, with him having almost 40 kids was good.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm sure Thursday will be a lot busier. Okay. All right, my man. We're good. I will see you down the road.
Okay.
Okay. Have a good evening.
Good.
Okay.
Job well done.
Thank you. You too. Thanks for your help.
All righty.